You've tried before, you've started over, made promises, had moments of clarity where you saw exactly what needed to change. And you changed for a while, maybe a week, maybe a month, maybe you even made it a few months. But eventually you drifted back, not all at once, but gradually. Old patterns resurfaced, old habits returned. Old versions of yourself that you thought you'd left behind came back, and before you knew it, you were right where you started. Just a little older, a little more tired, a little more convinced that maybe you're just not built for transformation. But here's what you missed every time you reset. You were doing it wrong. You were tweaking, adjusting, modifying, trying to improve the same broken foundation. You were renovating when you needed to demolish. You were editing when you needed to rewrite. You were trying to become a better version of someone who fundamentally needed to become someone else. And that's why it never stuck, because you can't half transform, you can't kind of change. You can't keep 90% of who you were and expect the 10% you modified to make you someone new. Real transformation isn't incremental, it's not gradual, it's not gentle, it's violent, it's complete, it's final. It's burning every bridge to who you were and walking forward into who you're becoming with. No way back, the Stoics understood this. They knew that true change requires complete philosophical reorientation, not surface behavioral adjustment. Marcus Aurelius didn't tweak his character, he rebuilt it from principles. Epictetus didn't modify his slave mentality, he shattered it and constructed freedom from the ground up. And today we're going to do what you've been avoiding, what you've been too scared to attempt, what you've been putting off with each failed reset. Today we're doing the final reset, the complete reset. The one that actually works, because it doesn't leave anything standing from the old version. This isn't motivation. This is demolition. This isn't inspiration. This is reconstruction. This isn't another attempt. This is the last one you'll need, because after this, there's no going back, and that's exactly the point. Why your previous resets failed. Let's start with brutal honesty about why you're still here. Why, after all the starts and restarts, all the Monday mornings, all the New Year's, all the "this time will be different," you're still fundamentally the same person with the same problems you failed. Because you tried to negotiate, you wanted to change without changing. You wanted transformation without sacrifice. You wanted to become someone new while keeping everything comfortable from who you were. You said, "I'm going to work out." But you kept the same sleep schedule, the same eating habits, the same friends who don't train, the same excuses, and you wondered why it didn't stick. You said, "I'm going to build a business." But you kept the same time-wasting habits, the same comfort-seeking patterns, the same risk-averse mindset, and you wondered why nothing happened. You said, "I'm going to change." But you kept the same environment, the same relationships, the same routines, the same person, and you expected different results. Einstein said that's insanity, doing the same thing, expecting different outcomes, but you've been doing it for years, calling each attempt a reset when really it was just another round of the same cycle. You failed because you were scared to actually let go, scared to burn the bridges, scared to become someone your current circle won't recognize, scared to leave behind the comfortable prison you've spent years building. You failed because you held back. You gave yourself escape routes. You left doors open. You kept safety nets in place. And every time things got hard, every time you started to feel uncomfortable, you used those escape routes. You walked back through those doors. You caught yourself in those nets and told yourself, "At least I tried." But you didn't try. You performed trying. You cosplayed transformation. You went through motions that looked like change while making sure nothing actually had to change. And I'm not judging you, I'm just naming what's true. Because until you see this clearly, until you understand why every previous reset failed, you'll keep repeating the same cycle. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." You could stop reading right now. You could go back to the comfortable version of yourself that doesn't require real change, that doesn't demand real sacrifice. that lets you stay exactly who you've been, or you can stay and do what you've never done. The final reset, the complete one, the one that doesn't leave any version of the old you standing. The point of no return. Here's what makes this reset different, what makes it final, what makes it work. You're going to create a point of no return. Most resets fail because they're reversible. You start working out, but if you stop, nothing really changes. You start reading, but if you quit, you're just back where you were. There's no consequence to quitting, no real cost to going back. But the final reset is irreversible. You're going to make changes that can't be undone. You're going to create consequences that force you forward. You're going to burn bridges that can't be rebuilt. And yes, this is scary. Yes, this feels extreme. Yes, part of you wants to keep the safety nets, keep the exits, keep the option to go back. But that's exactly why you have to eliminate them, because as long as going back is possible, you will go back the moment things get uncomfortable. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to identify the biggest safety net in your life, the thing that lets you stay comfortable, the escape route you always use when transformation gets hard. Maybe it's a relationship that keeps you small. Maybe it's a job that's killing you slowly, but pays enough to stay. Maybe it's a city you've outgrown but are too scared to leave. Maybe it's an identity. You've been clinging to that no longer serves you, whatever it is. You know what it is, and you're going to eliminate it. Not eventually, not when you're ready, not when conditions are perfect. You're going to create a timeline, 30 days maximum, and you're going to remove that safety net from your life. You're going to quit the job, end the relationship, move from the city, abandon the identity. And yes, every part of you will scream that this is reckless, that you need a plan, that you should wait, that you're not ready, but you'll never be ready. Ready is a lie you tell yourself to justify staying the same. Seneca wrote, "We are always getting ready to live, but never living." You've been getting ready for years, preparing, planning, building the perfect conditions for transformation. But transformation doesn't wait for perfect conditions. Transformation creates conditions through decisive, irreversible action. So you create your point of no return, you make the change that can't be reversed, and suddenly you're not trying anymore, you're not motivated anymore, you're just surviving in a new reality that demands you become someone new, and that's when real change happens, not when you're inspired, but when you have no choice. The complete inventory. Now that you've committed, now that you've created your point of no return, we do something most people skip. We take complete inventory of everything that's kept you, the same person you need to see clearly, every pattern, every habit, every relationship, every commitment, every thought, every belief. That's part of the old version, and you need to be ruthless because anything you keep from the old version is a seed that will grow back into the old life. So get a piece of paper and write down every area of your life. Physical, mental, emotional, social, professional, financial, spiritual. And for each area you write the brutal truth about where you are not, where you wish you were, not where you're trying to be, where you actually are right now, your physical state. What's your actual energy level? What's your actual strength? What's your actual discipline around sleep, food, movement? Don't lie, don't soften it. Just see it, your mental state. What do you actually think about most of the time? What patterns run automatically? What stories do you tell yourself about why you are the way you are? Your emotional state. What do you actually feel? What are you avoiding feeling? What emotions do you numb with distraction, with substances, with constant busyness? Your relationships, who actually adds value? Who actually drains you? Who keeps you small? Who would celebrate your transformation and who would resist it? Your work. What are you actually building? What are you actually capable of? What are you avoiding because you're scared of failing, or worse, scared of succeeding? Your finances. Where does money actually go? What do you actually value based on spending, not on words? What financial chains keep you trapped? Your character. Do you actually keep your word to yourself, to others? Do you actually live by principles or just by convenience? What do you compromise? that you said you never would. Write all of it, every uncomfortable truth, every pattern you've been ignoring, every way you've been lying to yourself. Epictetus taught, if you wish to improve, be content to appear stupid. Appearing stupid means admitting what you don't know. Admitting where you've failed, admitting that the person you've been pretending to be isn't who you actually are. So take the inventory. See yourself completely without the stories, without the excuses, without the comfortable lies, because you can't reset what you won't acknowledge. You can't transform what you're pretending isn't a problem. The elimination phase. Now comes the hard part. The part most people can't do, the reason most resets fail. You're going to eliminate and not just trim, not just reduce, eliminate completely, ruthlessly, everything from that inventory that doesn't serve who you're becoming. And I don't mean the obviously bad stuff. Everyone knows to eliminate the destructive habits, the toxic relationships, the clear problems. I'm talking about the mediocre, the comfortable, the things that aren't terrible but aren't helping you. Transform the friends who are fine but keep you exactly who you've been. The job that pays, okay, but slowly kills your soul. The habits that aren't destructive but waste your potential. The commitments that made sense once but no longer serve your path. All of it gets eliminated, and here's the standard you use for each thing. You ask, does this serve who I'm becoming? Not who I am, not who I was, who I'm becoming. And if the answer is anything other than an immediate, clear yes, it goes the relationship that's comfortable but not growing. You eliminate the hobby that fills time but doesn't build you. Eliminate the commitment that's not terrible but drains energy. Eliminate, and yes, people will notice. Yes, people will ask questions. Yes, some will call you selfish, cold, too intense, too extreme. Let them. You're not doing this for their approval. You're doing this because every previous attempt at transformation failed, because you tried to keep everyone comfortable while you changed, but you can't comfort others and transform yourself. You can't make everyone understand and become someone new, so you eliminate without explanation, without apology, without permission. You create distance from relationships that no longer serve you, quit commitments that no longer align you, delete apps that waste time. You remove access to old patterns. You eliminate everything that ties you to who you were. Marcus Aurelius wrote, the obstacle is the way, but sometimes the obstacle is the things you're clinging to, the comfortable, familiar things that feel like home, but function as prison. So you let go, you eliminate, you create empty space, and in that space, something new can grow. But it only grows if you actually eliminate, if you actually let go, if you actually create the space. Most people try to add new things to an already full life and wonder why nothing sticks. You're doing the opposite. You're emptying completely. You're eliminating ruthlessly. You're creating space before you try to fill it. And yes, it will feel like loss. Yes, you'll grieve. Yes, you'll question everything, but that's the process. That's the price. That's what makes this reset final. You burn the bridges, you eliminate the escapes, you remove the safety nets, and you walk forward into empty space. And that empty space, that's terrifying, but that's also where transformation actually happens. The foundation rebuild now. Now you have space, empty, clean, clear space. No more clutter, no more mediocre, no more comfortable prisons, just space. And now you rebuild, but not the same way, not with the same materials, not on the same foundation. You rebuild from principles, from non-negotiable standards, from truth, not from comfort. And this is where most people make their next mistake. They eliminate everything, create the space, and then they fill it with the same type of things, just different versions, new relationships with the same patterns, new habits with the same motivations, new goals with the same character. But you're not doing that. You're rebuilding from completely different foundations. First, you establish your principles, 3 to 5 maximum. These are the truths you'll live by regardless of circumstances, regardless of cost, regardless of who disagrees. Maybe one principle is truth. You'll see clearly, speak honestly, act from reality, not comfort. No more lies, not to others, not to yourself. Maybe one principle is discipline. You'll do what you commit to when you commit to it, regardless of feeling your word is law, especially to yourself. Maybe one principle is growth. You'll always choose the thing that stretches you, that makes you uncomfortable, that forces you to expand. Maybe one principle is value. You'll only invest in what actually matters, time, energy, attention, only to what builds. Who you're becoming, whatever your principles are, you choose them. Now you write them down, you make them non-negotiable, and then you build everything from those principles. Your daily schedule built from principles, not from comfort. What does the day look like for someone living these principles? Your relationships built from principles. Who belongs in the life of someone living these principles? Who adds value, who challenges, who supports transformation? Your work built from principles. What work aligns with these principles? What builds what you value? What stretches you appropriately? Your habits built from principles. What daily practices reinforce these principles? What repeated behaviors make them automatic? Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality," and most people imagine that building from principles will make life rigid, joyless, restrictive, but it's the opposite. When you build from principles, when you have clear, non-negotiables, decisions become simple. You don't waste energy on whether to do something. You just ask, does this align with my principles? Yes. You do it? No. You don't. Simple, clear, no negotiation. And that clarity, that simplicity, that's freedom, not restriction. You're not trying to figure out what the right choice is in every situation. You know what the right choice is because you know your principles. So you rebuild the foundation, you establish the principles, and then you build everything from that foundation. And this foundation, unlike the one you had before, this one doesn't crack, doesn't shift, doesn't compromise, because it's built on truth, on standards, on non-negotiables. The new operating system. Now you have the foundation. Now you have the principles, and you need to install a completely new operating system, a new way of thinking, a new way of processing, a new default mode. Because even with principles, even with elimination, if your brain still runs the old software, the old patterns will return. So you need to reprogram. And this isn't metaphor, this is literal rewiring of how you think, how you respond, how you interpret reality first. You identify your default thought patterns, the automatic scripts your mind runs. Maybe when things get hard, your default is, I can't do this. Maybe when opportunity appears, your default is, I'm not ready. Maybe when someone challenges you, your default is defensiveness. Whatever your defaults are, you write them down, you see them clearly. And then you write the new defaults, the thought patterns of who you're becoming. Old default, I can't do this. New default, I haven't done this yet. Old default, I'm not ready. New default, I'll learn by doing. Old default, defensiveness. New default, curiosity. And then you practice. Every time you catch the old pattern running, you interrupt it, you stop, you breathe, and you run the new pattern. This isn't positive thinking. This isn't affirmations. This is deliberate reprogramming. You're teaching your brain new responses, new interpretations, new ways of processing reality. And at first, it's hard. At first, it's manual. At first, you'll catch yourself hours after the old pattern ran, but you keep practicing, you keep interrupting, you keep installing the new operating system, and gradually it becomes automatic. Gradually, the new patterns become your defaults. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Your old operating system, that's your unconscious, and it's been directing you into the same patterns, the same outcomes, the same version of yourself. But when you reprogram, when you install new defaults, you're making the unconscious conscious, and then making new patterns unconscious. You're literally changing who you are at the automatic level, at the level of immediate response, at the level of default behavior. And this is what makes the reset permanent, not willpower, not motivation, but new operating system. Because when your defaults change, when your automatic responses change, when your unconscious patterns change, You don't have to try anymore. You just are. You're just someone who thinks differently, who responds differently, who processes reality differently, and that someone doesn't drift back to who you were because the operating system is completely different. No. The accountability structure. Now you have the foundation, the principles, the new operating system. But you need one more thing to make this reset permanent. You need external accountability, real accountability, the kind that has teeth. Because here's what happens, even with everything we've built, there will be moments when you want to quit, when the old version whispers that it wasn't so bad when you're tired of being the new person. And in those moments, if there's no external force holding you to your commitment, you might break. So you create that force. You build an accountability structure that doesn't let you slip first. You find someone who will hold you to your word, not someone who will comfort you when you fail, not someone who will make excuses for you, not someone who will say, "It's okay, you tried," someone who will call you out when you're bullshitting yourself, someone who will remind you of who you said you'd become when you're forgetting, someone who won't let you negotiate your standards and you tell them, "These are my principles, these are my commitments, these are the non-negotiables, and if you see me violating them, call me on it immediately." Second, you create public commitment. You tell people who matter what you're doing, not for approval, but for accountability. You say, "I'm eliminating X." You say, "I'm becoming Y." You say, "These are my standards now." And by saying it publicly, you create social pressure to follow through because now people are watching. Now there's consequence to going back. Third, you create financial stakes. You make it expensive to break your word. Maybe you commit money to someone else's success contingent. On your failure, maybe you prepay for 6 months of something. You'll lose if you quit whatever it is. Make breaking your commitment cost you something real, something that hurts. Epictetus taught, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. The accountability structure is the what you have to do part. It's creating external conditions that force you to become what you said you would be, because internal commitment is necessary but not sufficient. You also need external structure, external pressure, external consequence. And yes, this feels uncomfortable. Yes, it feels like you shouldn't need it. Yes, it feels like you should be able to hold yourself accountable. But if you could, you would have already. Every previous reset would have worked. So stop pretending and build real structure, real accountability, real consequences, because the final reset isn't about trying harder, it's about making it impossible to stay the same. The daily practice, and now we get practical. We get specific, we get daily, because all the foundation, all the principles, all the accountability means nothing if you don't have a daily practice that reinforces everything. So you design your day not around convenience, not around comfort, around becoming. You wake up early, not because mornings are magic, but because the person you're becoming doesn't negotiate with the snooze button. You start with silence, 10 minutes, minimum. No phone, no input, just you and your thoughts. Checking in with your principles, remembering who you're becoming. Then you move, you train, you push your body, because physical discipline builds mental discipline, and you're building both. Then you create before you consume 2 hours minimum of building something, of moving toward your vision. Before you check anything, before you respond to anything, before the world makes demands. This is non-negotiable. This is your daily proof that you're different now. Then you check in midday review. Are you living your principles? Are you running the new operating system? Or are old patterns creeping back? You course correct immediately. You don't wait for tomorrow. You don't save it for the reset. You adjust now, then you continue. You maintain your standards. You execute your commitments. You do what you said you'd do, and at night, you review, you write, you reflect. What went well? Where did you slip? What needs adjustment? Marcus Aurelius did this every night. He examined himself against his principles, not to shame himself, but to see clearly, to adjust, to improve. And you do the same. You examine the day, you measure yourself against your standards. You identify where you need to strengthen, and you commit to tomorrow, not with new resolutions, with specific adjustments based on today's data. This is your daily practice, and it never stops, because the final reset isn't a moment. It's a system. It's a daily choice to be the new person, to run the new operating system, to live by the new principles, and that daily choice, reinforced by daily practice, protected by accountability, built on solid foundation, that's what makes the transformation permanent. What you'll lose. We need to talk about cost, because this reset, this complete transformation, it costs you things. You'll lose people, friends who like the old version, who are threatened by the new one, who can't adjust to your boundaries, your standards, your transformation. You'll lose them, and it will hurt. You'll lose comfort, the familiar patterns, the known quantities, the safe, predictable existence. You'll trade it for growth, and growth is uncomfortable. You'll lose approval. Not everyone will like who you're becoming. Some will call you extreme, rigid, too intense, obsessed. You'll lose that approval, and you'll have to be okay with it. You'll lose your old identity, the stories you told yourself about who you are, the comfortable narratives that explained your limitations. You'll lose those stories, and sometimes you'll grieve them. Seneca wrote, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." You can't be the old version and the new version. You can't maintain who you were while becoming who you're meant to be. So you lose one to gain the other, and most people aren't willing to pay that price. They want transformation without sacrifice. They want to become new while keeping everything old. But that's not how it works. That's why all your previous resets failed. The final reset, the one that actually works, requires total commitment, total sacrifice, total loss of the old. And yes, that's scary. Yes, part of you will resist. Yes, you'll question everything, but here's what you gain. What you'll become, you lose the old version, but you gain something infinitely more valuable. You gain integrity. Your word means something especially to yourself. You become someone who keeps commitments, who follows through, who does what they said they'd do, and that creates confidence. Not fake confidence, not borrowed confidence, but earned confidence built on evidence of your own reliability. You gain clarity. You know who you are, what you stand for, what you won't tolerate. You're not confused anymore, not negotiating anymore, just clear you. Gain respect from the people who matter, from people who value strength, who recognize transformation, who see what you've done. You gain peace, not the peace of comfort, but the peace of alignment, of living by principles of being who you said you'd be. You gain power, the power to shape your life, to create your reality, to respond from choice, not from pattern. You gain freedom, not from responsibility, but through responsibility. Freedom that comes from self-mastery, from internal authority. And you gain yourself, the version of you that was always possible but never realized because you were too scared to pay the price. Epictetus taught, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. You can't control outcomes, but you can control your commitment to principles, your daily practice, your transformation. And when you control those things, when you commit completely, when you do the final reset, you become free, free from the old patterns, free from the comfortable prison, free from the person you were, free to be who you're becoming. And that person, that version built on principles, running new operating systems supported by accountability, practicing daily. That person doesn't need another reset because they're constantly adjusting, constantly growing, constantly evolving, not through dramatic overhauls, but through small daily alignments with who they're committed to being. The decision. So here we are at the end of this, and you have a decision to make. You can close this, go back to your life, pretend you didn't hear what you know is true. That you need complete reset, not another tweak, not another adjustment, complete reconstruction. You can tell yourself, this is too extreme. I'll do it gradually. I'll start Monday, and you'll be exactly where you are next month, next year, 5 years from now. Or you can decide right now, this moment, that you're done with the old version. Done with the comfortable prison. Done with the mediocre existence. Done with being someone you don't respect. And you can commit to the final reset, not eventually, not when ready. Now you identify your point of no return and you set the date, 30 days maximum. You take the inventory. You see everything clearly. Every pattern, every relationship, every habit, every belief that keeps you the same, you eliminate ruthlessly. You create the space, you burn the bridges, you establish your principles, you rebuild the foundation, you install new operating system, you create accountability, you design daily practice. You commit completely and you become not who you wish you were, not who you're trying to be, but who you're capable of being when you finally stop negotiating with transformation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind. Not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This is your power, this reset, this commitment, this complete transformation. Nothing outside you has to change first. No one has to give permission. No conditions have to be perfect. You just decide and you commit and you execute and everything changes. Seneca wrote, "It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." You've wasted enough on half measures, on comfortable mediocrity, on being less than you're capable of. This is the final reset, the complete one, the one that actually works, because it doesn't leave anything standing from who you were. It burns it all and builds something new, something stronger, something real. So decide now, not tomorrow. Now, are you doing this? Are you committing completely? Are you ready for the final reset? Because if you are, if you really are, your entire life changes starting now. Stay focused, stay grounded. The old version is gone, the new one begins today, and there's no going back. This is the final reset, the one that changes you, for better, the one you'll never need again, because you'll finally become who you were always meant to be.